Welcome to a very basic introduction to Maya fluids. An empty scene and the FX shelf up here. I'm going to start showing a 2D Maya fluid just to explain what the idea behind Maya fluids is. So Maya fluids deals with voxels, which have three-dimensional elements. In this case, it deals with two-dimensional voxels, so sort of something in between pixels and voxels, I guess. But there is no depth to this simulation. If we just create a two-dimensional voxel grid, we get this. If we play it, it fills up. There's an emitter in there. It fills up, and we get a nice flow upwards, which is interesting because you would expect stuff to fall down. Let's get some more frames in there. Why does it go up? Well, because gravity is pointing up in Maya fluids by default. If you go to the attribute editor, there's a fluid shape, and a fluid emitter. If we go to the outliner, you can see there's a fluid with a emitter in it. So if we go to the fluid shape, we see gravity is 9.8, and if we make it minus 9.8, it will start falling down. Boom. To show you what's actually going on, I'm going to decrease the base resolution. Decreasing the base resolution makes the voxels bigger. So now you can clearly see that there's squares between which the density, which is emitted by the emitter, is flowing, and it's flowing from one to the other, and eventually, if you let it flow long enough, the whole thing will simply fill up with density. So let's go back to a higher resolution, and we get more detail in our simulation. You do not have to use an emitter. You can also take the emitter out and say, I want to add content, for instance, by painting on it. So if I add some density, maybe with a value of 1, I can simply paint density on it, but it doesn't update really well. It's just a bit of a lag. But once I've got some density in there, if I then play the simulation, you'll see that it just sort of starts flowing into each other and eventually dissipate. Any system tries to reach an equilibrium with a distribution as even as possible. We can also flood the entire thing with density, and let's put a density of 0.5 so we get something interesting. So if I'm flooding it, flood, and now it's filled with a density of 0.5, and if I now create a sphere, this side sort of, make sure it's actually at the origin. Well, not quite at the origin. I want to have it out there. And this sphere I'm going to have interact with my grid that has a 0.5 density. So I'm going to make it collide. So back to the FX shelf, make collide. It doesn't know what to collide with, so select the fluid and the object, make collide. So now it will collide with the fluid. If I turn on interactive playback, I can just pull it through the fluid and you'll see how it reacts. It actually works in real time. I can push the Maya fluids around. And this is mesmerizing, and I can play with it for hours. But let's not do that. Let's try and look at a 3D example.